What's up, everyone? I'm Merk, and this is Trading Shots, a show where our panelists debate all things CWL, and I'm handing out points for strong arguments and hot takes. Last week, Ben kept Pac-Man from a three-peat win, and now everyone, including Nameless, is tied in win percentage. This week, though, we're mixing it up, making his first appearance on Trading Shots. We've got Miles, Ross. We got some new guys on the desk. How you guys doing today?
Hey guys, I'm just praying that Miles doesn't grab slam the desk.
You got your grapple on?
Ruin cut. You're looking fresh today, brother.
I said to the guy in the barbershop, he's like, what do you want? I was like, well, I'm running grapple in a recent, not in search. And he was like, I got you, fam.
It's a beautiful haircut. You look great.
Thanks,
Can you give them a side view?
Just want one of these?
Oh, it looks good. That's a tight fade. That's a tight fade. All right. Let's get it going right with first blood. Here we go. There were many less than stellar performances this week, but I got to know which player was the most disappointing. Miles, you're the new guy. We're starting with you.
I'm going to have to go with E6 as an entire roster. They finished bottom. The entire squad finished bottom in the top 10 respawn KDs. That's every single member of the team. Same can be said. I think all four of them managed to make it into the bottom search destroy KDs as well. So there's clearly been a bit of a rough run for the boys of E6. Now, I don't think that's the worst thing that could have happened because, you know, they were fine at Fort Worth. They did fantastic, but the league is clearly not where E6's strengths lie.
I think the big thing for them is, I think you touched on it, right? They were top 6. They got top 6 at an event. Like, this was, you get Chino to the roster, things are starting to look up, and they just got smoked this last week of Cross Division play. Ben, we're going to go with you. Who is that most disappointing player?
I'm going to take a little bit of a different turn here. I'm going to go for reciprocity. Yes, they placed very well at Fort Worth, and you're thinking, okay, all right, you know, a good performance. Maybe a European team can get a little bit of momentum. Not the case. Have to look at Zed's performances in the Cross Divisional play. They go 2-2. Even his performances when they actually win, it wasn't enough for me. A 0.8 and a 0.9. Then you look at the games that they actually lost. Against 100 Thieves, Joe, a 0.6. That's simply not going to be good enough. This is a team which, coming into London, an event in their home territory, you're really expecting the best. You're praying the crowd gets behind them. And if I'm honest, Joe, you're going to need more output from him because he's one of those players which should be a superstar to the team.
Ben, have you ever seen a more up and down player than Zed? I've never seen a guy. You could sort of put it on like the energy that reciprocity brings to the stage, right? Game 1 hardpoint. It's like you could hear those guys from miles away.
Agreed.
But then things just slow down.
And let's not forget, this is a player who dropped 3 kills in one game of hardpoint to grab slam for the dub. That to me is insane in itself. I've never seen.
He's had under like 6 kills.
And his EKAs weren't much better. It ended at 7. So let's not pretend like, oh well, he's at least doing a lot of damage. But that's neither here nor there. We can put that behind us. My point is, even at the league, he needs to step up. I think there's a lot of pressure on this reciprocity squad now, Joe.
And don't forget as well, I mean, we've just had that update where the score, you're not going to get that specialist if you're not playing well. So you can't be doing that. You cannot be doing that.
Good luck. Have fun, bro.
Nameless, for you, who had a disappointing week?
I think it has to be Nagafin, right? Like, Nagafin was last in respawn KD and second to last in search and destroy KD for the entire week. And GenG's a team that went 3-1. They won 3 of their matches 3-1 in the series. And it's like, if Nagafin steps up, maybe they're winning 3-0. And this is a team that should be getting top 4. After their performance in the Pro League, they were, 9-0 in search and destroy. They were number 1. They go into the next, set of cross-divisional play. They play amazing once again, but at an event, will they be able to continue that over the course of an entire event? We saw them get top 8 at Fort Worth. We thought they were going to go further after they beat Optic Gaming, but they fall there. They get that top 8 placing like Havoc and Nagafin always do. Will they be able to get better? I think it relies on Nagafin stepping up his game.
And I think that's a topic we're going to get to later on about GenG going into London. How good can they be? But to follow that up, the most disappointing player, I want to ask you guys, any of those players that we touched on, so Zed, Nagafin, Enigma 6, I guess in general, from Miles' point of view, Roster Mania, it's open. Are these guys in trouble? Which of these 3 parties do you see
but they're not
potentially making roster changes? Ben, we'll start with you.
So for E6, they should, but they probably won't. For you, GenG, no, I think that's the one which I think we'll all agree they shouldn't. But for me, reciprocity, I think there is a very big potential. And here's why. The one player that everyone has had this buzz around Europe, Alex. That's been the conversation. Where will he fit? Then you add in the implosion of Red Reserve. There's a lot of high-priority European talent that's completely free. So if you're thinking, all right, maybe it's time that we really do try and form this God squad, if you will, there are options out there. Now, are they going to necessarily take them? I don't know. But for me, performances like Zed that I touched on, against the big teams. That's the key here, against the big teams, against your 100 Thieves, against your Splice. If you're trying to go over that bump of top 3, you've got to start beating these big guys. And right now, Rec, they're not filling me with confidence, Joe, and I really think you need that superstar. Maybe a Scraps, maybe the twins together.
He's like their glue. Like, if you watch like those reciprocity videos when, you know, they have their in Vegas thing, like, he's their glue. He's the guy that they're always hanging out with. I think if they get rid of Zed, like, at that point, then they just become like this makeshift team of people. Their vibes are gone, and I don't think that they improve too much as well, because at, you know, Fort Worth, him and Dylan were like the Bash Bros. They were the duo going in every time, just dominating. No, seriously, at Fort Worth, Zed and Dylan were incredible.
Zed dropped 3 kills in a game.
Yeah, he had a bad map. He had a bad map.
That was wild.
Zed had an incredible
in a great tournament. Zed had a great tournament.
I'm not saying it. I'm just saying Bash Brothers said that's a hell of a compliment.
Didn't you cast Rec vs. Optic? What did Zed do in that series?
Played very well.
He played amazing.
But I think to Ben's
set up their
point,
tournament.
this is their chance, right?
Exactly.
To make a
if
God
there's
squad.
ever a chance, like, this is it.
Everyone they potentially want is there.
But I think you changed Shawnee, not
All right,
Zed.
so Nameless, I was going to say, you're up next. Is there anyone you think can make a change?
Are you talking about overall, the whole landscape?
No, these
of
three
things,
teams. E6, Reciprocity, GenG.
It's hard to tell because Reciprocity was still pretty solid and they had a great showing. I do think if they want to be a championship team, they need to make a change, and I think that change comes with Shawnee. I think you release him and find somebody else. I think there's a lot of upside to a player like Zed. He's really aggressive. He can have those big games, and you can have a player that's sort of prone to the bad game, but you can only have one player. And if you get rid of Shawnee, you only have that one player in Zed, and I think there's way more upside to him than Shawnee. And in terms of the other teams, E6, I definitely think they need a change. They need to blow up that roster. I think 2 or 3 people need to get released.
Okay.
And what was the last team we were talking about? Oh, GenG. Yeah, I don't think they'll make a change. GenG's a very solid team. I think Nagafin just needs to work on his game and step it up. They definitely need to have a team talk, but I think Nagafin has a lot to improve on.
All right, Miles, for you.
When it comes to E6, there is no way they're making a change. I don't believe it. I think they're actually going to stick out as a roster. I think they're going to work through the problems because they have the potential to be a decent team. They have the potential to make it work. I think some serious discipline has to be handed out because some of those games are sloppy, friends. They're very sloppy. For GenG, again, I don't think a change happens there. I genuinely believe that squad has everything in its makeup to win a championship and to go far. And Nagafin, yeah, you said, and I get you, Nagafin needs to step it up, but lest we forget the performance Nagafin put up against Optic Gaming on that seaside control, I have never seen a man go off more in all my life. He's reached new levels of the human form. Like, I've never been so impressed. Hold on. And when it comes down to Rec, though, I actually think Shawnee may be a bit of an issue. The person I want to see coming on that roster, because subs are good. Zed's still a good player, yeah. Prone to the bag game. He completely crapped the bed. Like 100%, 3 kills not good enough. But I think I want to see Denz back on the roster. I want to see his AR actually get used because he's an AR player that never really got the chance to shine, never really got the chance to play. And I'm just showing some love to my Antipodean brothers.
It's like
That's a different way.
I just want to rewind to something he said.
Uh-huh.
Everything was great, but GenG have the makeup of a championship.
They can do it.
Hold on. We'll get to that in a little bit. I know. I could see your reaction.
I can understand, I guess, like a small percentage. Maybe they have a chance of upset.
I think that's
to win an
gonna be a
event.
future question.
Is absurd. All right, go ahead.
That's going to be a future question. We're going to talk about that. Yes. Spoiler alert. We are going to talk about GenG going into London. It's okay. That's why I'm here. I'm here just to slow you down. But that's going to do it for First Blood. Let's go ahead and take a look at our scoreboard at the beginning. It's always very close, and I believe we have a tie between Nameless and Benson at 5. Miles is right behind him at 4.
Yeah, it is
Bollocks.
But of course, Miles, that will put you in last. But that's sort of an advantage going into Quickscope because that's going to put you up first.
Can I make a point? Did we just perfectly replace the picture of Maven with an identical replica of a picture of Miles? That is the same exact thing that they do in their pictures.
How do
you? I don't remember taking pictures like that.
No.
Do that?
Where it was in Vegas. We were doing the photo shoots.
Oh, they said do something crazy.
No. They were just like, just show us what
Just
you
be
got.
yourself.
And I was like, check this back arch out. And I was like, it's a good look.
All right, well, let's get right into Quickscope. Let's get it started. Optic fell short of their goals at Fort Worth, but remains strong in the Pro League. Well, I want to know what is the key difference between the Optic we saw in Texas and the one we saw here in Columbus. Miles, we'll start with you.
For me, it's role changes. It's the difference between Tej and Karma swapping both Ruin and swapping the War Machine. I think that obviously made a massive impact on the way their control plays out. We saw them in the control gameplay in Fort Worth was insane. They beat GenG by, 15 lives in an offensive round on Seaside. That's a lot. When it comes to the Pro League, crap the bed. It's not looking good. And I just put that down to the change they made from Fort Worth going into this cross-divisional Player Pro League. That change has not sat well with the squad. We need to see something different out of Optic because we know they can go the distance. I want to see, for me, I want to see Karma go on the Tempest. I want to see Dashi running the War Machine. Tej needs to be using that grapple, though. He's an aggressive sub. He has to do it.
He's got to get good at it, right?
Yeah, he needs some time. He needs some time.
So great points, Miles.
I'll be honest. I've heard some chatter. I don't know if we're going to see TJ on the grapple. Nameless. And it's a tie at the front, but he's our guest of honor. You'll go second. Optic Gaming for you. What's the big difference?
First of all, I want to say a lot of that I agree with as well. But I think the biggest difference is obviously their control. One thing, they were great at Fort Worth at it, and then they just weren't good in the league at all. But their S&D got a lot better as well. So like going into this week, they go 3-1, but it's a lot of game fives. They were getting by in tough series. If they're winning control, this is a great Optic team that's winning 3-1 in a ton of their matches. TJ remains to be sort of at the bottom of the statistical list, but the rest of Optic Gaming, they're playing pretty good. So, if they can start closing out those controls, they'll be a top team again.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can make those adjustments going into London. Ben, for you, the difference between Optic at Pro League and at Dallas.
It's a tough answer because I think these guys kind of hit the nail on the head, and I don't want to sound like a parrot, but they're absolutely right. Control. That's one of the big things that you see, the drop off, the search and destroy. But I think more importantly, it's the confusion now over who's running what in terms of specialists. I don't think it's now just, a couple of players. Obviously, you see the one switch between Karma and Thieves, but I think now it's even more deeply rooted. But the biggest problem, I think, is that sub duo. Every successful team has those subs going off. And right now, you're just not seeing it, Joe. You need a little bit more productivity all around from those Sorgs.
Well, I think we had a better week out of Scump, but TJ still struggles.
It was a big struggle, Joe. It was almost un-TJ-like. Like, when we think of TJ, we think of a player who is never always going to get the most love, right? But he always gets the job done. And we were seeing him just not even being able to do that.
Well, his search wasn't even good.
It was bad. There was a couple of 1v1s that you're used to seeing him win, and you're like, okay, that's a TJ 1v1 you expect to see him win.
And I think we all know he's a good enough player where we're not judging his talent. I think we know it comes down to role issues, and there's something wrong. I don't know if it's the chemistry between him and Scump or if there's other problems, but right now I think really the solid duo for Optic and the specialists going into London, that has to be the big focus.
When's the last time TJ has had like a bad stretch of games? It's not too often. So it's like the one he's going to get out of it. You just got to give him time, right?
Yep.
Like you can't.
And the right specialist.
I've seen a lot of people on social media saying like TJ needs to get dropped and stuff like that. You don't drop TJ.
No, you don't.
He's an amazing player.
He's up there with. I mean, for me, as an aggressive sub, he's up there with the Priest as the Abiz. He's a great player, but
what he brings in search too, like
just time. Give him some time.
All right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to give him some time into London. But after a third-place finish at Fort Worth, Reciprocity went 2-2 on the week. Well, I want to know, are they living up to expectations they set at Fort Worth? That top three. Nameless, we're going to start with you. Did they live up to expectations?
It's hard to say, right? Like, they beat E6 and Down, they lose to 100T and Splice. And those are two teams that you think probably should beat Reciprocity. We talk about the roster change that they need to become that top three team. And, I think their expectations are to, kind of beat those teams and lose to the top three teams. So I think they're kind of right in their bubble where they should be. I think Dylan definitely needs to step it up. Obviously, he was 1.13 in search at Fort Worth and 0.69 in cross divisional. In terms of S&D, if he plays a little bit better, I mean, he's a superstar once again, but other than that, he's been great.
So for Reciprocity, for you, it was right where they're at. Sort of not in the top three, but maybe a little bit under that.
Just like, I think they're okay, right? I just don't think they're going to win an event with this current roster, but I think they live up to the expectations.
All right, Ben, for you, Reciprocity.
I would agree with Ant if they'd finished top 8 at Fort Worth. They didn't. They finished top 3. For me, that's when you look at that momentum to really drive through to cross-divisional. It's a big week and you're expecting big results. To go 2-2, yes, they beat the teams you expect them to, but you play against 100 Thieves and Splice. I want to see an improvement there. I want to see you take at least one. I'm not saying go 4-0. I'm saying 3-1. Give me something to believe in heading into London. That, to me, is really that 1 week where you can prove to everybody you are a championship-winning squad and you can do it on the biggest stage against the best teams.
I kind of agree with that point. I would have loved to see at least win one of those series against 100T and Splice. Miles, for you, Reciprocity, we're going into London. Were you happy with what you saw?
I'm happy enough with what I saw. And again, echoing both of you, so they need to be improving. But if you look at Fort Worth, they went game 5 in every series bar 2. And that was against 100 Thieves with Fellow, which they 3-1. And that was against E6, who sat on them. It was 0-3. You come into the Pro League, all of a sudden they're looking like the top teams that they should be beating. They're not being, the top teams that they should be beaten by are beating them, right? Yep. That's all good. I believe, though, that this team is on a solid trajectory to actually becoming the squad that can win a championship, can go into London. And for me, right now, the biggest problem for them is that that they're the guys that only show up when it matters. When the stakes are high, that's when Rex show up. Otherwise, they're just cruising, and I dislike that immensely.
So you just think they're not taking care of business when
No.
they're making it harder on themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're the guys who cram the night before the exam, as opposed to the guys who put in the hard grind, and then when they show up on the day, they're like flexing, it's all good. They just, yeah!
It's like Dallas, right? Like, you know, that once they get in a loser's bracket, that's when they really start to turn things up.
When the stakes are high, Rex show up. If not, they're just happy to be on like cruise control and like, you know, sweating it out, all shouts, fist bumps.
What's that reciprocity energy? Like when it's there, we know how good they are.
But that's not enough to win a championship. That's not enough.
Like their match versus Denial, they 40-point clubbed them, 90-point clubbed them in the hard point. Like that was towards the end of the week. They played so good. It's just like when they're in those bad situations, they're just immensely better.
Yeah, but, well, it was a debated topic earlier in the show, but we're going to talk about GenG now. From the start of the play this year, GenG has been the strongest of the dark horses. Well, I want to know, has their 9-2 record in the Pro League made them one of the favorites? I know they're not the favorite, but maybe one of them for London. Ben, did 9-2 impress you yet?
I'd love to say yes, but it isn't. You need to show me that at an event. Yeah. That's the key. Pro League and events, two very, very different beasts. You're playing unbelievably well at Pro League, but do I believe they're a favorite? Absolutely not. To me, they need to win before I will ever have that belief. They have to show me that they can win and they have the ability to win. There's too many players on that team which have consistently challenged to be the best, but not cross the finish line. And until that point, Joe, I can't have them as a favorite. You can do whatever you want in the Pro League. Hell, go flawless. It doesn't matter. You have to do it at an event. You two former competitors, you know it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, it definitely is. Miles, GenG, do you believe in them yet?
I believe. I'm not sure if I believe in them yet, and it's exactly what you said, Ben. It comes down to the events, and I think London is going to be by far the hardest event for them possible because it's overseas. There's a different time zone. They're going to be in a completely different environment. It's one thing to be playing in Dallas when, you know, you've only had a couple of hours on an airplane, but when you take an entire day out of travel and your body's on a different time zone, that messes with your shit, man. I'm telling you now, that ruins a man. They're going to struggle immensely in London. Again, I think they have the makeup of a championship winning team. They can get it done. Envoy fits the team well. He's going to take them to great places, but London is not that place for me.
All right. Nameless, GenG, are they a favorite for you going into London?
Absolutely not. I think they're a solid team. I think they have top 6 potential, upset to top 4 potential, but I would never pick them over 100T, Splice, Optic Gaming, any of those guys, Luminosity. Like, I just don't think GenG have a team that's capable of doing that. There's not a single player on that roster with a championship to their name. I know there's some new players. Major Maniac came onto the scene recently, Envoy coming back as well, but you know, the rest of those guys, not a single championship. They played amazing at Fort Worth, fall out at top 8. It's like, what's stopping them at that point from going further in the tournament? It doesn't make much sense to me. And to your point about going over to overseas, I totally agree with that. I think it'll be Major Maniac's first tournament overseas. Do you remember your first tournament overseas? It was tough.
Didn't sleep much.
Envoy as well. Like, it's just, there's a lot of things this team needs to go through before they get to that point. I think if they stay on this path by COD champs, they have a potential to get a top 3 place.
I think it's important to just mention that I think we all think they're a great team with great
just
players.
Time.
Like, you talk about Major Maniac, he's a phenomenal player, but it's just to be a favorite, Joe. I mean, you've been favorites many times. You've been a favorite a couple times as well. You know it's hard. It really is difficult.
And to elaborate on this point, because I think it's something we should talk about, is like where they were in that tournament when they fall out. They looked so good before they lost that match. It's like, what's stopping them from in there? And if they get to that top 4 situation, can they beat 100 Thieves and then beat an Optic and then beat a Luminosity to take a chip? It's a tall task. Very tall task.
So let me ask you guys this simple question. For them to go from 9-2 in the league, very strong, for them to be a favorite for a tournament, do they have to win one first? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And here's the final thing I'll say on that topic, because I do want to talk about it more. It's like, in the Pro League, GenG is like that really good team that's a huge test for you as, like, say your Optic, 100T, Splice. When you play them, they're like, these guys are good. We got to go hard. But these Optic, 100 Thieves, and Splice teams, they're trying to work on stuff to be that best team. GenG's going out there, and when 100 Thieves or Optic play them, they're, like, testing stuff out. They're trying to figure out their roles, and they'll lose. And that's why they'll look so much better in Pro League than they do at an event. And it's been like that in COD. There's always been those on-the-cusp teams.
Yeah, we'll have to see if maybe they can finally break through at London. I mean, 9-2, the fundamentals are there. Right. Just can they all turn up for a weekend? We'll have to wait and find out. But you talked about Optic and 100 Thieves, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Optic and 100 Thieves finally matched up in Pro League after a lot of excitement from the community. This meetup went in favor of 100 Thieves 3-0. Is this new rivalry between 100 Thieves and Optic all hype, or does it have the chance to be the next Optic versus FaZe? Miles, we're starting with you. What do you think of this rivalry?
I think the rivalry at the moment is kind of Rick and Morty. I think 100 Thieves have a great head start on where Optic are right now, and I think that the situation Optic's in, they've got a lot of catch-up to play. They've got to fix the role issues. They have to get the game on. Right now, 100 Thieves is so strong. But I will say, if anything, it's hype as hell. Have you seen the content?
Yes.
I'm lining up. I've hit the notification buttons. I'm down. I'm like, here we go, baby. And if it's 3, I'm like, oh, it was still sick. I'm immensely excited for the content. For the matches, I'm still leaning 100 Thieves.
So you think right now 100 Thieves has the edge in
Yeah,
the rivalry?
100%. 100%.
Okay. Nameless, for you? What do you think about this? Is this just a little bit too hype, or is it actually a rivalry?
In terms of community outlook, I think it is a massive rivalry. And even sort of, some of the players, like there's Optic killers on 100 Thieves, right? There's slashers on that team. You got Priesta, who beat them last year in the finals. Like there's a lot of players on that team, like Enable from the TK team that was winning, Kenny as well. And there is a massive disconnect in Kenny and Scump. Scump and Kenny, Kenny was the new Scump last year.
Yep.
And Scump hates that, trust me. So there is a rivalry there, whether the players say there is or not, it's definitely there. And also Nade Shot. There's just so much.
I love that, because I think people don't understand that. When you look at the 100 Thieves roster.
Optic killers.
Optic killers. The only other people you put on that list is Apathy and Ace.
Yep. And Parasite. He beats them a lot.
Sure. All right.
He does.
No, he does. Darn it. Oh, well. I was on that Optic team when he beat me a lot. All right, Benson, for you. Is this a real rivalry?
Absolutely, this is a real rivalry. Don't get me wrong, we've had some great ones. Optic FaZe, Optic Envy, the E-Classico, some really rooted rivalries. But this could be the new one. Why? Nade Shot, former player for Optic Gaming, the guy that basically took a struggling Call of Duty esports, put it on his back, streamed, did content, did absolutely everything. He leaves Optic Gaming, makes his own organization. The fans, you're like, where do I go? Do I stay with the Green Wall? Do I go to 100 Thieves? What do I do? You don't know. But even more, the players. Let's not forget, there's former Optic Gaming players on 100 Thieves. They're trying to make a point. They're trying to say, oh, you want to release me? Bet 3-0. How'd you like that Green Wall? This could be a rivalry, Joe, which goes so long. I'm excited.
I just think the only other rivalry that I think you could say could attest to this or beat this is potentially Luminosity and Optic, just due to formal against Optic Gaming. And I just think those are two teams. Even Slacked, another guy, John, has always given Optic a hard time. I think that's the only other team right now that really has the rivalry factor that 100 Thieves and Optic does have.
Just better friends.
But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
As a caster now, Joe, when you're casting LG Optic Gaming, do you have that same feeling as when you cast Optic Gaming versus 100 Thieves?
Yes.
You do?
You
feel that energy?
I love watching formal play Optic.
Okay.
Here's my issue.
That's a different.
The only reason I'm on your side with this is because I feel like even though Formal had that falling out with Optic, I feel like deep down they still love each other because they had so much success together. So when I look at 100 Thieves, it's just a bunch of Optic killers, people who
I think they hate each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that as players, there's nothing more they want to do than beat each other when they're playing. And when I see the LG playing them, I'm like, there's still a little bit of Formal in there. There's still a little bit of happiness there.
Do you guys think we're gonna get a Optic 100 Thieves final this year?
No.
Just give me.
No, minus the points, Miles.
I don't think
That would be the best card chance.
It would, but it's not going to happen.
I just want to, think an open
Optic
final,
will
a
not
playoff
go
final.
to another final until champs.
We said, bear in mind,
Wow, that's bold.
That's bold, but I
How's
like
that
it.
bold?
we
That is
said, bear in mind,
bold.
we
They're trying not to
said that about
rethink.
FaZe last year. We get it at playoffs.
We could get on the
Optic
playoffs is different. League's a little different, but at a major and open, nah, mate.
You don't think?
You guys just crushed my soul.
What?
So,
I think that we will.
Well, that's going to do it for Quick Scope. Let's go ahead and take a look at the standings. I believe that's going to put Nameless and Benson in the top spots at 12. Unfortunately for you, Miles.
Bollocks.
Well, it was great to have
Don't
you
press on the desk.
It was great to have you on the show. Yes, please do
Just
not pop
grapple
your
out of here.
specialist. You got any last word for us, Miles? It was fun having you up here.
Oh, it was tons of fun. Look, I don't get to wear the headset. I don't know if I'll be back, but
You could have it. Maybe just walk off with it. No, just
I just
kidding.
might take that.
He deserves it. Yeah.
Look, I had fun, okay? It was a good time here, and I hope the best man wins.
All right, well, that's going to do it. It's time for the grand finals. Let's go. And it is down to 2, Nameless versus Benson. The winner will enter the Smack Talk Winner's Circle presented by Astro Gaming. With Pro League matches in the can until after London, we can now take a look back across all the teams in Cross Division play. Well, the championship question today is, who is the Cross Division MVP? We have a tie right now. Nameless, you want to go first?
Yeah, let's go first.
You want to go first? All right, so you're up first.
So I want to talk about MVPs in Call of Duty, right? So in the last 10 years of Call of Duty, we've given the MVP to somebody who's won the tournament, right? And sometimes that is, that player is the MVP, he was the dominant player of the tournament. But this is like the only esport or only competitive anything where we only award an MVP on the winning team. Why can't the MVP be on a team that's not doing so well, but he's playing amazing and he's doing it all? So I'm gonna pick Dashy as my player. I think if he's not going off, if he's not number 2 in respawn, top 10 in search and destroy, they're not winning respawns and they're losing. They're going to game 5 and winning that last search and destroy. Do they get to that game 5 without Dashy playing amazing? Probably not. So I think we need to have a new take on this whole MVP thing. I think there should be players winning MVP that are having crazy tournaments and sometimes losing in that top 4 area. But yeah, that's to sum it up.
Just to clarify your argument here, and where is that threshold of you can win an MVP? Top 4?
Oh yeah. So I think you obviously have to be a good team. Like you got to be top 4, probably top 4 area.
Okay, because I think the counter argument to that is traditionally if you go further in the tournament, you're playing more games, right?
Oh sure, yeah, absolutely.
For your MVPs, normally it's a player who has played more maps and has.
So here's the counter to that. There should be.
This isn't even the argument. I don't know why we're talking about
this. There should be a.
I just thought that was a really
because we're talking about who is our MVP for Cross Divisional. There should be a regular season MVP, or whatever it is, regular tournament MVP, and then a finals MVP. That's how it should be.
Okay.
So there obviously is going to be a threshold, which is like top 4, top 6, determined by people who understand the esport, and then that's how it should be.
All right. So
in my opinion, Dashy went 3-1. One of the only Optic, one of the only teams to go 3-1 out of like a couple. And he played amazing.
So in terms of my actual answer for cross-divisional MVP, how about 100 Thieves Slasher?
Played amazing.
Goes 3-1 as well, to your point. Drops a 1.49 in respawn, the number 1 KD from the week. You talk about Search and Destroy, Dashy's strength. Well, guess who the player above Dashy was? Yeah, it was Slasher, 1.29. His S&D was phenomenal. Now, here's the key to why I think Slasher is the correct answer here, is because we all know his potential, the potential he's had for years and years and years. It's no mystery, right? We know he can be that MVP caliber, but we haven't really seen it because he's surrounded by so much talent. And it was almost as if last week was just kind of a reminder from Slasher saying, don't worry, guys. I can still do this. I can still hard carry when needed.
Okay.
And he can produce the goods when his team really, really needs him.
But if Slasher doesn't play that good, they're still winning games. That team's still amazing. Like, he didn't have to go off like that at Fort Worth, and they still played absolutely amazing. So if Dashy doesn't play like that, in terms of value to your team, Slasher and Dashy bring an incredible amount of value to their teams respectively. But if Dashy doesn't bring that value that he did in Cross Divisional, Optic is sitting at 2-2, 1-3 likely, and they're thinking about making a change after Fort Worth and going 1-3. You got to think Optic would think about making a change at that point. 100%. I've played for so long. I know how teams they would 100% be thinking about making a change. So in terms of value to that roster, to what they did during that time, Dashy is unequivocally, in my mind, above Slasher, because I think Slasher could have a 1.1.
I think it's also important to remember what both teams played, like who they actually played in terms of their schedule. For 100 Thieves, their schedule was pretty tough. I think they only lost to Midnight, which again was a really tough game, where even then Slasher still goes off. He plays extremely well.
Is Midnight a tough game?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think Midnight's a tough game.
At the Pro League, it's the same argument we had earlier on with GenG. I think that's a team which
they
go in and you respect. And let's not forget,
test.
you don't think Midnight was a hard game with the way Saints was playing? Jesus, I haven't seen Saints play that well for a very long time.
Shouldn't be able to do that.
That's neither here nor there. That was their only loss that they actually took, and even then, Slasher in the loss still played out of his mind. To me,
there's no debating that.
It's
There's
crazy.
no debating how good both players played. I'm just talking strictly value to their team. Dashy brought way more value to Optic Gaming than Slasher brought to 100 Thieves. If Slasher,
Slasher has the number 1
all right, so for 100 Thieves, who are you picking, Dashy or Slasher?
Slasher. For 100 Thieves?
If you had to pick a player to be on that roster between Dashy or Slasher, who you pick?
I would pick Slasher, knowing how much he has been able to
That's
achieve
going to end
in his
this
career.
argument here.
I completely disagree. How much he's been able to win in his career, the fact he already has rings, the fact he's a fantastic player. I mean, the guy is a massive talent.
Dashy is in the very beginning of his career. He's
destroying.
He's breaking records.
I'm not saying he's a bad player by any means. He's one of my favorite players to actually watch.
You would not be a good GM.
I disagree.
You would pick Slasher over Dashy right now.
I'll pick players with rings, yeah.
Okay, I mean that's fair. I mean that's fair standard to go by if you want to breeze by. But I think having Dashy right now is going to bring you more championships in the future than having Slasher right now.
If CWL Champs is tomorrow, and who wins? Optic or 100 Thieves? If that was the grand final,
We're talking about players.
Sure. But if CWL Champs was tomorrow, who do you think would win?
Luminosity.
100 Thieves or Optic Gaming?
Luminosity.
That's not good answer.
That's a bad question for hypotheticals. Luminosity would win if CWL Champs was tomorrow.
We're talking about rings.
All right, guys.
I'm talking about.
I know. We're
talking about value.
We're
I'm talking
getting,
about rings.
all
I'm
right,
talking
we're
about
getting a
value.
little. We're getting a
Value
little
is
broad here.
Rings are worth money.
Now I wanna dissect that because we were talking about MVP during the last couple of weeks. Now, there's some things that I want to focus on for 100 Thieves and Slasher. I think he was the MVP, and I'm going to tell you why. They go 3-1. Yes, the loss to Midnight, I think, shocked a lot of people. Who'd they beat, though? They beat Reciprocity. They beat GenG. And at the end of the day, when it comes down,
Beat Optic Gaming.
they beat Optic. Sure. Slasher outlasted Dashy this week. It was an MVP for this week. We could go about
It's not
it.
who's better, Joe. It's who brought more value to their team.
But at the end of the day,
Yes.
100 Thieves beat Optic Gaming.
Okay,
And Slasher outperformed
but it's not which
everybody.
team is better. It's the value to the team. Is there a player on 100 Thieves who's getting destroyed as bad as TJ is?
I just think when
No.
you come from top
There's
four,
not.
when you come from top four and you have such a tough week that 100 Thieves did, Slasher stepped up. That's why I think he's the MVP. So let's go ahead and take a look at our score. But I'm not discrediting Dashy.
I can't see the lens of your guys' argument. I'm completely on the other side of that.
But that's
That's fine.
because your description of what an MVP is different to the point of this question, which I don't fully disagree with you.
Right.
In terms of your MVP argument.
Well,
it's
you
just-
guys are going by the standard. You have to be the best team, and the MVP has
I'm
to
just-
come from there.
I mean, I picked a player who had the number
in
one.
no, in, there's always a Finals MVP, and in no regular season is that how it is. Imagine if NBA took their regular season MVP from the Finals, like Andre
that's-
Iguodala would be an MVP.
But that's not how
for
we
a
do
regular
it.
season.
That wasn't what the question was.
Okay, I'm talking about MVP.
No, I think without
and the amount of
Dashy,
value Dashy brought for those 2 weeks was more than Slasher.
I think without Dashy, yeah, it could be a catastrophic week for Optic Gaming. We're talking about roster changes for Optic, but when it comes down to the week, Slasher stepped up, had a huge week. They beat every single top opponent, including Optic Gaming. And, well, Ben, that's going to make you our winner for
Where's
the
that?
show.
Hank, can you pass me the headset? Because the headset's on your side.
This is
Well,
the second time you've done this.
This is.
What?
Can
You lost, that would be
can-
embarrassing.
can you-
And, well, Ben,
can
you're
you
going to
pass-
the
I'm not
Smack Talk
passing you
Winner
that.
Circle
It's on
presented
your side.
by Astro Gaming. Benson
I won't roast
as
you.
the
No,
champ for
stand
the
up,
week.
get up.
I won't roast
Stand up
you.
and
Your
get that.
prize is
Pass me
60
that.
uninterrupted seconds to say whatever you want to whoever you want. Put on that golden headset. Your time starts right now.
Ah, thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
First of all, great job, as always, to the wonderful Joe DeLuca.
That's some brownie points right there.
It's great to have Ant's already. I think he's upset. Ant's walking off. He's very, very sad that he's lost this show. But
Joe has something against me on
I
this
know,
show.
it was great.
Joe
Ant,
has
it's great to
something
have you
against
as
me
well.
on this
It was
show.
also wonderful to have Miles. Hopefully, we get to see him more on the show. Missing obviously Clint, but. In terms of what I really want to get down to and what I want to talk about is reciprocity. Exchange some tweets back and forth on Twitter. I need you guys to play well at London. I'm going to be front and center, cheering you guys on. I'm going to have the all of London on your side, but you have to produce the goods. And I'm looking at you to really have a good performance. I know Joe mentioned a couple of weeks ago that these kind of events, when you look at GFNEs, when you look at internationals, it's very good for European teams. There's traditionally a European team in the final. Rec, go over. Put yourself above and beyond. I believe you can do it. The crowd will help push you there, but you need to give the crowd something to believe in, and I think that's going to be it, Joe.
Yeah, we'll have to. I'm so excited for London. I really am. I think it's going to be such a great event. But yeah, I mean, really with what's happening to Red Reserve, I think everyone's sort of putting all their eyes on reciprocity, maybe to bring it home for you guys back there. But, well, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.